Alright YouTube, I decided to make a quick aside to the ET video that I made before, specifically about how, alien life, it's basically certain that it's out there in various forms. I will say one thing though, if this life arose under the same principle of selection that we did, you would assume that they would be competitive. They would compete for resources and so forth, as any living thing would. You have finite resources, you need competition. Anything that doesn't compete doesn't survive. As we see with humans, the same competition that allowed the human race as a total and different divisions of humans under different flags, different races and so forth, to persist, to supplant one another technologically in some cases, leading to the death of certain branches of humanity, but as a whole to persist, to increase technologically, to increase in overall numbers, to increase in every other way. The same competitive process that allowed us to survive, that actually gave us our advantage technologically and cognitively to begin with, could also be our undoing. This is the one principle that if the Fermi paradox is true and not just a lack of observation, I lean towards the latter more or less, but I will grant this. I think there is a good possibility that a great many potential sentient alien races have not achieved interstellar travel because they've repeatedly bombed themselves back to the Stone Age when they reach the zenith of their technological potential. They're about to break through to a Type 1 civilization. They have the weapons necessary to more or less debilitate their entire species. And because of that competition, as soon as one nation or tribe or group, sub-genetic group or whatever of those beings, assuming they have created systems similar to what we have on Earth. I don't think the idea of, some utopian, hedonistic group of aliens, they all think the same. They're like hive mind mentality. I don't think that that's likely because it wouldn't follow from natural selective forces. At least short term. It'd take too long to develop the philosophy, the way of life, beyond the technology. The technology would arguably come first, which is the problem. I think a great many of them have bombed themselves repeatedly back to much earlier stages of development. In some cases, this probably leads to their extinction as well. But I will say this. Any group of extraterrestrials, man as a sentient race would be included among this. If we can stave off the problem of mutually assured destruction, of dealing with being hit by a mega asteroid, other disasters, epidemics certainly. If we can accomplish that, if we can prevent any of those from depopulating us, and stabilize this Earth, not ruin it, not fill it with pollution and chemical waste and so forth, we will eventually achieve Type 1 civilization status. We will eventually no longer need fossil fuel. We'll no longer need many of the things that we have now. We can terraform our planet at will. We could get to the point technologically at which we wouldn't be harvesting asteroids. We'd be harvesting maybe a few of the other planets in the solar system, dragging them into the Goldilocks zone, dragging a moon around them, doing something to heat up their core and make them Earth-like. We have the capability to do that in the future. 1,000 years from now, if we're still here, we'll probably be approaching that level of technological development. Now, then it becomes a sum of you need a lot of energy to do that. I'm sure that we'll be fine. I'm sure the EM drive shows promise. I think there are other ways to do that we have the capability now. It's just a matter of do we have the will to do these things. You could build a giant harvester with an enormous solar sail and attach it to some small planetoid out there, Ceres or something like that, and you drag it into the Goldilocks zone. Yeah, you have the capability to do that. It's just a matter of it would cost so much money and so much manpower and resources that people haven't seen the wisdom in doing so. But we are feasibly capable of doing so. We just don't have the will yet. But I will admit one thing, what the purpose of this video. I will admit that probably a large proportion of sentient species haven't achieved their highest level of development because they ended up developing the means to destroy themselves before they developed mentally the means to prevent themselves from doing it. That's the danger of humanity. We've already developed the technology and proliferated that technology, specifically hydrogen bombs, enough so that we are feasibly capable of destabilizing our entire civilization. Collectively, every civilization would be negatively impacted and thrusting it backwards several centuries at least. We have the capability to do that. If we do that, unfortunately, we will also in the process contaminate a large proportion of the Earth. Thus, future generations will have to make up the lost time in more difficult conditions. On Earth, it will be far more irradiated. Large areas of resources that would have been usable would have been completely vaporized. Things like that. A lot of knowledge would be lost potentially over the successive generations. It's entirely possible that this is the norm for alien civilizations, which means they're out there, but you might be looking at a star system where the Great War, unfortunately for them, occurred in the last 100 years. Yeah, you're not going to get much in the way of signals from them. They're probably living in the Iron Age as far as technological development. They're living like we were a couple thousand years ago. It's entirely possible that that's why. What we could have is a situation where the majority of sentient species around the universe are stuck in this situation where they destroy them, so they reach the potential to go out to the stars, to develop interstellar travel, to develop functional immortality and all these things, and they destroy themselves. Then they start again. And they get to that zenith again, and they destroy themselves again, because it's just part of their development. They get stuck in a never-ending loop of holding themselves back. Yeah, that's possible. But I think that there are probably, given the mathematics of the situation, there are certainly species, I would say certainly, you'd say probably, that would have escaped this and perpetuated themselves. They are now multi-world, multi-system species. They do have interstellar travel. They have technology beyond our wildest dreams. And then, of course, there are species that have developed more recently that are still like cave people. That is, they haven't destroyed themselves. Then there are also, potentially, worlds where a world has spawned sentient life, or life at all, and it got hit by a massive asteroid and everything more advanced than the simple unicellular stage, or maybe colonial bacteria, got completely wiped out. So yeah, there are various reasons why you're not seeing much evidence of life, but they're investigating signals right now. I have no reason to believe that some of them aren't life. There's no reason for me to believe that we're alone in the universe. It takes a huge logical leap to think that we are. We've got to realize another thing, too, is that number one is our lack of observation abilities. Outside of our general region of space, we're not very good at it. Our telescopes can't really see anything with any clarity. We can guess, we can analyze spectra that are coming off planets. That's basically all we can do. We can monitor for signals that we would recognize. We can monitor for radio signals or whatever. Otherwise, we're fairly limited. It's like taking a single drop out of a lake, analyzing it, and determining that it's all homogeneous and the entire lake is like that one drop of water you sampled. That's how much we're sampling. It's a pretty poor sample size, honestly. Another thing that I would say is that some of those alien civilizations don't want to be noticed. And another thing that I would say is if you're looking at a star that's, on the other side of the galaxy, yeah, there's a little bit of a time differential because light has a limited rate of travel. So you're seeing it as it was, thousands of years ago or something like that. Well, maybe the life didn't develop all that advanced technology at that point. Maybe it has it now, but it's going to take us 1,000 years to actually notice. That's another problem. Then, of course, you get all the background noise of the universe. It doesn't make it easy. Now, what we should do is put observation platforms on the moon or something further away from Earth so we can get away from any interference here. Put it on the moon, put a station on Mars. That's what Musk should be doing. Instead of colonizing Mars to terraform it, turn it into Earth 2.0, which, unless you drag it into the Goldilocks zone, let's face it, is not a great idea. Instead of bothering to do that, why don't you put a scientific station up on there to make observations free of any influence from stuff that's going on Earth? Much further away. I would think it'd be far easier. You're also further from the sun, which I would think would kind of interfere with some of your measurements from time to time. But yeah, drag it into the Goldilocks zone when we have the ability. We can do that, by the way. Yeah, we could have Earth 2.0 right next to us. It's we're not limited to one planet. We just haven't thought about the novelty of, yeah, it'd take 1,000 years to do it, but we could. Now, actually bringing another planet into the same orbit that Earth is in, more or less. You know, keep it a little further or a little closer to the sun, just so, you know, you don't want them to smash together accidentally because you made a miscalculation. I think that'd probably be a bad idea. Although maybe Mars could just, you know, very slowly, it just sort of hits Earth, and then they just sort of start spinning around together, rolling on one another's surfaces, grinding everybody into a pulp. Maybe that's how aliens killed themselves off. Oh shit, we made a 1 degree miscalculation. We're all gonna die. Oh, no, fuck. I guess there goes immortality after all. That's about all. Peace out.